It's always a pleasure to have you join us on Report Desk Africa here on News Central Television, wherever you're watching from, whatever time of the day it is, whatever day of the week it is. My name is Bernard Akede, and of course, this is Report Desk Africa, as we like to call it for short, RDA.
My name is Blessings Mosugu, and just like he said, whatever day, whatever time of the week, we are here to give you the headline stories across the African continent. And this is the show where we not just give you the headline stories, but we also try to analyze it and profile possible solutions, because we have a lot of professors and professionals on the show, and we try to look at the present happening, compare it to the past event and future expectations. This is Report Desk Africa. Quickly, let's take you through a look at the forecast as of last week and the update that we have been tracking on News Central Television. Now, we told you about Germany's decision to pull its soldiers out of Mali faster in light of the planned end of a United Nations peacekeeping mission on the 30th of June.
Now, besides Mali and Germany, we also did tell you that Kenya's Azimio leader, that's talking about Raila Odinga, has vowed to mobilize street demonstrations from July 7th to protest the finance bill that has been assented to by the current president, William Ruto. And finally, last week, we also did give you an update on Uganda's decision to sell power to neighboring South Sudan, despite many complaints regarding power blackouts in the country, something that sounds familiar to many other African countries, right?
Well, that said, today we will be staying in West Africa. We'll be talking about the Senegalese President Macky Sall's decision no longer to run for third term. But we will discuss that, as well as the exam buddy jam in Algeria clearing the air on the result falsification. I'm sure that story is not news to so many Nigerians especially, and Africans in general. Very shortly we go on a break, and when we come back we'll bring you the stories.
Thank you for staying with us. Well, thank you for joining us if you're only just joining us. Now, we kick off from Senegal, where Senegalese President Macky Sall on Monday evening, made an announcement stating that he will not seek a third term in the upcoming elections, effectively putting an end to the uncertainty surrounding his political future. Now, the decision comes after recent opposition's protests, which turned violent and resulted in some casualties. One of the prominent opposition leaders, who has become very popular now, talking about Ousmane Sonko, had previously called for further demonstrations across the country if Sall had indicated that he was still interested to run for re-election come February 2024. However, Sall urged the government to take all necessary measures to ensure a transparent election process come February next year. Before we continue with this conversation, let's take a look at this short clip concerning what's going on in Senegal's political landscape.
Mes chers compatriotes, ma décision, longuement et mûrement réfléchie, est de ne pas être candidat à la prochaine élection du 25 février 2024. Et cela, même si la Constitution m'entend.
All right, now joining us to discuss this is political scientist Dr. Ibrahima Amadou Niang. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ibrahim.
Thank you for having me on the program today.
Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Ibrahim, Senegal, what's happening in Senegal is no news, to people who are interested in the political, like I said earlier, landscape that's going on there. Now, the opposition politicians have, reacted to Senegal's president, Macky Sall's announcement that he will not be a candidate in the 2024 presidential elections, saying it resulted from pressure from the people. What do you think, were the key factors that led to Macky Sall's declaration that he will not run for a third term in the upcoming elections in Senegal? And did this decision in any way come as a surprise to you, maybe?
To be very honest, it didn't come as a surprise to me because, I've always believed that in one way or the other, it was extremely difficult for any sitting president in Senegal to have a third term, especially, after what happened in 2012 with former President Abdoulaye Wade. I just felt that there would always be internal and external pressures that would make it extremely difficult for any incumbent president to, venture on that route. But from the information that we have gathered, I think that there's a combination of essentially two factors. One of them being that obviously there have been some, major protests earlier in June, but then generally also the environment in the country, the tense environment which you have described earlier, doesn't really make it possible for any wise president to try and run for a third term. So I think even if President Macky Sall says today that obviously this was his own decision, that may have significantly also impacted, influenced him at the end of the day. But I also genuinely believe that that President Macky Sall also knew that he had a moral obligation to fulfill, because he has written in his some of his publications, and he also made some public announcements in the past about him respecting the spirit of the Constitution, which is 2 consecutive terms. So I think it's a combination of both of those factors. President Macky Sall's will to fulfill his moral obligations, and also the incredible pressure and protests from civil society organizations and also opposition political parties.
Okay, Dr. Amadou, now it goes without saying that there was a lot of uncertainty in this past regime. So how did that, amount of uncertainty and doubt over President Sall's political future contribute to the opposition protest that is occurring or that occurred recently in Senegal?
I think to a great extent, obviously, the protests were linked to this third term issue, because there was uncertainty. People were hoping that President Macky Sall would come out at a much earlier time to say whether he would be running or not. And this fueled the tensions, coupled with what was seen by many as tentatives to keep major opposition leader Usman Sonko out of the race. So the combination of those two, the perception that people had of President Macky Sall's intentions to probably run for a third term, coupled with the situation around Usman Sonko's issues with the court and the manipulation that people perceived of the judiciary, really contributed to having that very tense situation in the country.
All right, now Sonko is many see him as the people's favorite, if you like, and that goes beyond Senegal, other parts of Africa as well. He's gathered a lot of support, particularly among the youth. Could you give us some more information about Usman Sonko and his role, his role as a top opposition leader in Senegal? Does the court verdict of corrupting youth, as it was put in quote, does it released earlier? Does this verdict released earlier? Does it still have any implication on his presidential ambition? And how come he is the major opposition that everybody else is rooting for?
I think Usman Sonko emerged as part of a situation where there was actually a vacuum, because President Macky Sall was very successful at bringing most opposition leaders on his side. And Usman Sonko was probably the only opposition leader who, did not, cross over, and was very persistent and very, loyal to his principles. And I think that's how, over time, he really gained the support and sympathy of many, many people. And obviously, the perception that people had recently of the judiciary being manipulated to, keep him away from the race also galvanized his supporters. So, I think Usman Sonko is obviously one of the most important opposition leaders. I don't know to what extent that would translate, obviously, into, electoral votes, obviously, because he was third. He came third during the last presidential election. And although he had great scores in the previous parliamentary and local government elections, that was part of a bigger coalition. And I doubt that that bigger coalition now is going, to survive, given the current, tensions that we've seen post the dialogue that the president conveyed a few weeks ago. So that it goes though without saying that Usman Sonko is still going to be an extremely powerful leader of the opposition. And at this point, we do not know if he will be allowed to run for the election because obviously the decision by the court that has been made public, and we are yet to see if that decision is going to be executed. And if it is going to be executed, will it lead to Usman Sonko not being able to run for the election, which many people speculate will be the case. But that would also create much more tensions in the country and would not favor inclusive elections as the president has called for.
All right, Dr. Amadou, now considering that the recent opposition protests and President Salls' announcement, this is something that a lot of people have wanted. And, now it's happening. What are the prospects for a peaceful and inclusive political environment leading up to the upcoming elections in Senegal?
The only way forward, I think if the president, as he said in his announcement, wants to favor peaceful and inclusive elections, I think the only way forward is to first ensure that every political leader who has the means and the capacity to participate in the election can freely do so. And that also means ensuring that Usman Sonko, who's the main opposition leader, can also, contest these elections. Because if he does not contest the elections, then nobody can see these elections as being inclusive, because he is right now the major opposition force. So I think that is the first really, the first requirement for Usman Sonko to run for the elections, but also for the president to ensure that all the decisions that were made during the dialogue, which ended a week or so ago, are fully executed and implemented.
All right, Dr. Ibrahima, Amadou, Niang, we want to thank you so much for contributing to this topic. Our eyes will still be on Senegal. We do hope that things will be peaceful leading up onto the elections. And after that, we certainly will continue to keep our eyes on Senegal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
for having me on the program. Thanks.